Hi, this is Passy's World of ICT, and welcome to our third and final part of making a story in Scratch. So, this part here is from part 1, where we built scene 1 of our story, where the guys are talking to each other. And they decide to leave the garden, and that is the end of scene 1. Scene 2, which we build in part 3, looks like this. So again, we have some talking between the guys, the characters, and some animation. And some finishing off. And that's the story done. Now, we won't go through the detailed steps of building the blocks because there is nothing new here. All the things that are done in part 3, which involves building scene 2, where they're in the desert, is basically the same as part 1 and the same sort of stuff as in part 2. So let's go through it step by step. First, we have the stage. Now, on the stage, we have 3 backgrounds set up: a black screen, the pathway for scene 1, and the desert for scene 2. The scripting for the stage works as follows: that at the start we want to have the pathway garden scene. So we have when the green arrow is clicked, set it to pathway. When the guys have finished scene 1 and leave the garden, we set it to the black screen, ready for the a short time later message to come on the screen, which is the introduction to scene 2. So the code here is when it receives an end of scene 1 message, we switch the background to the desert, ready for scene 2, and we broadcast a message here, start of scene 2. Now, in scene 2 we have different versions of the cat and duck sprites. So this will broadcast a message to the scene 2 sprites: hey guys, it's time for you guys to stop hiding and show up on the screen and do your stuff. Scene 2 then runs through, and at the end of scene 2, down the bottom here, we need to switch the background back to a black screen because we're going to put the to be continued message, which marks the end of our story. So that's the setup for the stage. If we have a look down the bottom here at the sprites, we have cat S1, and that contained all of our scripting for scene 1 of the cat. We have duck S1, which was all of the scripting for scene 1 of the duck's activities. We have the intro message, which comes up at the start of our story. We have the end of scene 1 message, which gives us a short time later. Now, for scene 2, we just made the cat again, and over here we have all of the scene 2 cat scripting. Now, this could have been added on to cat S1, but that would have made the script for that sprite extremely long. It's much simpler to leave cat S1 as he is, because that's all working fine for scene 1, and to build scene 2 with another version of the cat sprite, which is what we've done here. Alright, so let's go through some of this stuff. And it's pretty much the same as part 1, but when the flag's click to start it, we want to hide that sprite because we don't need it till scene 2. In scene 2, we set its size, we set its position, and it replies to the duck because the duck actually talks first in scene 2. Now, the duck does that silly business of running across, hitting the cactus, spinning round, and lands flat on his back and says, "Ow, that hurt." Now, when that's all finished, he sends a message here back to the cat: when I receive duck on its back. Alright, that's when the cat now can say the ending sort of things, and it can then say everything's finished in scene 2 and broadcast the end of scene 2 message. Now, that broadcast end of scene 2 message, remember, that goes across to the stage sprite, who can then set up a black background for the final story message. Let's go across to the right here, the duck for scene 2. We've got just another version of the duck sprite, same costume, and in the costumes we had to go in and edit it and flip the duck around horizontally so he was facing to the left. Same sort of thing as we did in part 1. The script on the duck, again, is very similar to part 1. We have just a point in direction 90 to make sure he's facing up the right way, because he finishes the story lying flat on his back. So at the start you want him standing up straight. Just set his size, set his position. He says stuff, waits for the cat to reply, and then he does his animation where he runs across the cactus, spins around with this repeat loop, and says that hurt, and then lets the cat know that he's lying there flat on his back waiting for the cat to make some comments. Alright, the final thing here is that the cat, when it's made its final comments, broadcasts the message end of scene 2. That needs to be picked up here and hide the duck so that the duck isn't there when we have the final message for the end of story. Now, the end of story message, this final sprite over here on the right hand side, is fairly simple. At the start of the story, we don't want that to be continued end message to show, so we just hide it. Once it is the end of scene 2, that's when we show that message for 3 seconds, and then we have a stop all because our whole story is finished and we've need to stop all of Scratch. So that's it for finishing off our story. Now, we went through the code very quickly there, but remember, in the YouTube details for this video, you can find a link to our website, and on our website there are screen prints of all of the scripting you need to do part 3 and build that scene 2 where the guys are in the desert. So as you've seen in this tutorial, it's best with the story to break it into scenes. You can have sprites for each scene. It can be the same character, you just bring that costume in again but have a new sprite. So that keeps it all contained and easy to work on. Now, you could continue this further and have a scene 3. You would just build it up the same way as we've done here and have some new sprite versions for scene 3 and put scripting on them and so on. I don't know how long you can make a Scratch story, but you could keep building scenes and keep going with this approach. So we hope you have enjoyed these tutorials on building a story. You can make a fun story of your own, and it's helped you learn a bit more about Scratch.